In this demonstration, I'm going to show how we can use the move to and the line to functions combined with some of the properties to draw a triangle shape as I showed in the previous discussion. So to get started, I already have the canvas and our context, and we're going to come in and we're going to set the stroke style to red, and that'll render our border as red. And we're also going to set a line width, and I'm going to make it pretty big, 10. And the reason I'm going to make it big is I want to demonstrate some of the different properties that can be used. Now from here we need to have the canvas start tracking our dots or our drawing areas, and so we're going to do kind of a dot-to-dot approach, and so we'll say begin path. And then we want to draw the actual data points, the x and y coordinates of where to draw. So we're going to do first off a move to. We're going to move to 150, 10, and what that's going to do is automatically grab our brush, if you will, our context, and actually move it to 150 over on the x and 10 down on the y. Now from there, I want to go ahead and do some lines, and we want to draw a triangle, so I'm going to do a line 2 from the current position of 150, 10, and we're going to go down to 75, 200, so down slanting to the left. Alright, if we run this as is, we should see our line coming down now, and there you see it. And I'm a little bit zoomed in right now in the browser because I'm going to demonstrate another feature with properties in just a moment. Now we need the line going across the bottom, so we'll do another line 2, and we're going to go 225 on our x over to the right and keep it the same y, which would be 200. And then we'll connect back up to what we did right here. And if we run that, we should see a nice little triangle. Now you'll notice it's not quite finished off here. It looks a little bit strange at the top. I'll come back to that in a moment and show you why that is. Alright, so that's the first thing. Now as these lines are connecting, there's different properties we can set before we stroke it. So for instance, I could come in and set the line join, and the default is miter. And so if I run this again, you're really not going to see any difference here because that was the default. But I can come in and actually set the miter limit. And let's go ahead and set that. It's normally defaults to 10, but let's go ahead and try 5 first. Probably won't see a lot here. But if you watch these corners here, you'll notice it looks pretty much the same. Let's go ahead and go all the way down to 1. This is going to, in essence, give a bevel type of effect. And there we go. Notice that kind of bevels the end here. The miter limit controls the angle at which these two will come together and how much of that shows after. And you'll notice we kind of cut it off, whereas 10 lets these angles go way out. 1 really kind of contracts them back. And so that's kind of one of the things that the miter limit can do. So I'm going to go ahead and just comment that out. Now another thing we could do is we could set the line cap. How do the lines interact with each other? Now this defaults to something called butt, where they'll just butt up against each other, but I'm going to go to round. There's even a square we could do as well. Let's go ahead and do round and see what we get. And you'll notice at the top it now rounds this, where the lines come together. Now maybe that's what you want, maybe it isn't. I'd probably argue that down here they're not rounded, so maybe we don't want that. But we could even mess with that with our line join type, and we can make that round if we want. But it did at least make the curves at the top come together. And so that's kind of what the round does. Now, you can do other values. We can do square. And you'll notice that really kind of looks a little strange. It doesn't really even look square at all, but that's what the output will give us. And then the default is butt. And so that's what we had, but we still have the gap up here, you'll see. To fix that gap, let me go ahead and comment this out. It's really easy. We began the path and we stroked it, but we never told the canvas to actually basically fill in the path completely or close the path. So I'm going to come in and say close path, and now when we run it, you'll see that it's perfect up here. It looks pretty good. And that looks a lot better, and we have the square type of stuff that we would want. So that's an example of what closed path is, and while you don't have to have it, closed path will make it so it fills in those gaps that you saw previously with the different lines. Now, just like with rectangles and other shapes, I could also come in and we could set a fill style. We'll set it to yellow, and we'll go ahead and fill, and let's run that. And there we go. So we have a nice little canvas being rendered, and we could certainly make it a little bit bigger on the top, for instance, but it works pretty good. In fact, let's go 2020 here, down just a little bit. There we go. Now you can see the complete top of the triangle. It was chopping it off just a slight amount. So we reviewed that the miter limit actually controls how the angle of these lines comes together and how much is shown. We can also control the line cap and the line join. The line join ties into the miter limit. It defaults to miter. Line cap is the two lines at the top. How do they kind of cap off to each other? And we can do things like round or square, or they just butt up with each other. And then we talked about the importance of closed path so that we actually get the appropriate look and fill up here where the lines meet. And again, if we take that out, it'll work, but it doesn't quite look nearly as good. You'll see it kind of chops it off, and it's a little bit difficult to get that nice final look. So closed path plays an important role. So that's an example of using the move to and the line to functions, as well as some of the different properties for drawing lines.